What's up? What's up? What is up? It's another week of the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy B Brown ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration here in my pink outfit because we are at October 15th in the middle of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Here at the Ball Hog Sports Talk, we want to send condolences to anyone who has lost someone due to breast cancer. We want to send support for those who continue to fight, hope for those who are eventually going to get to the other side, and prayers that we continue to evolve with the science to protect against breast cancer. So that's why I'm wearing my pink. But although I'm in pink, we still going to get rough, rugged, and raw because it's the Ball Hog Sports Talk. It's the only way we know how to do it, and it's going to be a good show today, y'all. Because today's episode, a broken system of value. That's right. A broken system of value is the title. And that title has so many different meanings, like we always do at the Ball Hog Sports Talk. But a value system itself, if you think about a value system, and I'll say verbatim, it is a person's standard and self-discipline set based on the common sense and wisdom of knowing what the proper moral rules and disciplines are, and the amount of willingness to see themselves and others abide by them. The other use of value is a monetary use of the word. And today we're going to talk about in both. There is a broken system of value. You know how we do it. We talk sports, business, entertainment. We do it rough, rugged, and raw. Put on your seatbelt. Fasten up. Someone just said nice church hat. Yes, it's for those who cannot see in the listening world. Yes, I am in my pink church hat because we about to go to church this morning, y'all. A broken system of value. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Let's go. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Because this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B Brown ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw, so come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go. Y'all know what it is. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy B Brown ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration, aka Breezy, in here with my church hat, all pink, celebrating breast cancer awareness. Here with the crew, you know who we do it with. It is ETP Ellis the producer. I see, look, I'm already messing up. Ellis the producer is the Boston hat to mess me up. What's up, ETP?
What's up, baby? Go Sox.
Go Sox. You know, you say it all the time with your Red Sox hat, and you're doing it again today. And you know who else is in the building. It is the Big Flow Show. What up?
What's good, America? Hey, so our Sox got beat, I think, man. So you got to distinguish the Sox. So good luck to the White Sox for the offseason. I hope fishing goes well for you.
Only someone from Chicago would say you got to distinguish the Sox. I think when you say the Sox, most people go with the Red Sox, bro.
Well,
sorry.
That most people where you live.
Yeah, where I live.
Where you live. Around here, they say the Sox. They talk about the White Sox.
Touche. Well, look, man, today's episode is Broken System of Value. And we got to go right in, man, because this week has been quite the week. And it has been so up and down. There's been this roller coaster of emotions, of stories. But the one that has been at the apex, at the top of all sports stories, has been and should be Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden has done what no one thought could be done. He made everyone forget about Urban Meyer, but he has also shown that there is this network, this communication channel, this portal of correspondence that is I want to call it the dark world. And before we go in, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, please like, please comment, please share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know. Please subscribe in both YouTube land and on the podcast. Let's go in, y'all. What do y'all think about Jon Gruden? I don't have any order but to just discuss it, because here's a man who was misogynistic in his emails. He was racist in his emails. He was homophobic in his emails.
He was equal opportunity, though. So in some ways, you got to say he was fair. He pissed everybody off.
He did. And interestingly enough, I think his comment about DeMaurice Smith's lips that were, I didn't think they were racist when I first saw it. I thought it was funny, because his lips are rather large. But in the context of all the other emails is when the racism to me started to rear its ugly head. When you see what he said about Eric Reed, you see what he said about Colin Kaepernick, when you see what he did with hiring and firing, it started to feel more racist. When I first heard it on its own, on its face, I was like, that's just locker room talk, us talking about each other. I got friends with big lips. Hey, look, personally, I got a long bottom lip. My friends have talked about doing double dutch with my bottom lip. We laugh about it, man. But when you look at it in the context of all the other correspondences, it did start to feel a little bit more like it was racist. He called his lips Michelin tires.
There was, I don't know if this is proven, but there was also something that he said, he referred to Smith as some monkey reference. So the thing about it, whether it was racist or not, and I mean, obviously you got this continuity where it's just like, okay, ignorance. So I just thought it was funny. I never heard anybody talk about somebody, because his justification for the rubber lips or the lips like Michigan tires, he said that he calls people that are liars saying that they have rubber lips. I don't know what part of the country he's from. Where I'm from, I've never heard that. It was so interesting that I was like, yeah, maybe he's telling the truth, but it's such a weak alibi. And then the other stuff came out, and it was just like, yeah, this is a pattern of behavior. But it was the timing. The timing's most interesting, right? Like, how did all of these emails come out? How did who leaked out the emails? I know it was as a part of an investigation around the Washington football team and their undergoings, but how does this become public information?
And should private communication, which is leaked publicly, be scrutinized to the degree such that it could cost you your job? Because I started thinking of whether or not, and no one will look through your text messages unless it's a part of some sort of discovery, a part of a lawsuit or criminal investigation.
Same as this email.
Right? But it's the same thing. The privacy in which you expect is very similar to your phone, right? And let's be honest that in 2011, when these exchanges started, email exchange was the equivalent of text messaging. How many times when we had, a long text message that essentially was the same, contents of an email. So back in 2011, I think that the email was the today's version of a phone, how you communicate. But so when we, any of us, expect our text messages, the things that we say about each other behind closed doors, things we say about each other publicly too, but behind closed doors, we go at it. We tease each other. We say some things that might be considered a bit out of bounds, right? Off-color jokes. But we do it thinking that there's some privacy related to the exchange. That's the only part when I looked at it. Yes, and I saw someone say maybe more than anything, he was honest. He is who he is, political correctness aside, talking about Jon Gruden here. And when he said rubber lips, I thought it was more talking about like, his lips being rough, right? Because I got those. If I don't put chapstick on, Vaseline, it's going to get serious up in here.
You're really trying to cut for him, huh?
That's what I thought.
Stretching it.
He's stretching it. Look, here's the thing: is you learn at an early age in corporate America. Nothing on the corporate server should be deemed private. It can always come up. This is the type of stupidity that you would tell a young person about and say this is a life lesson.
Same thing true about your phone, though, Big Flo.
Nope, my phone is my phone. My phone
not
is not
necessarily anything that's discoverable can be made public.
Here's the thing: is my phone is mine. It's not a corporate phone. It's nothing, whatever. It's my specific phone. Yes, but anything you write down can come up somehow. But you can't get any dumber than using your corporate server and an email there, because in this situation, it happened with the Enron situation back in the day where there was a problem and people were getting divorced because you could search Enron's emails and you could find out look at your husband or your wife's email on the server because it was publicly displayed, and that was years, but that was 2000 that happened. The bottom line is, once you ring the bell, you can't unring the bell. Is it in some ways unfortunate that stuff comes out? Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you're finding out who people really are. And if you go back, when I first heard the thing about the rubber lips, it's racist in the matter of like, what was the context that you were saying this email? What made you send an email to a bunch of people talking about, he didn't even work for Washington, talking about the size of somebody's lips? That's something that's like tasteless at a minimum, right? But then when you start going into digging in, I'm reading some of these articles, they start looking. I said, look at Gruden's background and history. Never had a black quarterback, only had one black assistant or coordinator that he's had on his staff. Got into Oakland and quickly got rid of the black punter. Quickly got rid of Khalil Mack. A lot of these different people from being
Reggie,
outspoken.
Reggie
McKenzie, who they just made the playoffs the year before Gruden got there. Now he gets there and they got 4 wins with most of the same players because he shipped a bunch of guys out. The receiver, he got another receiver he shipped out of there. I mean, he dismantled a lot of stuff that's going on, and you start looking back and you're like, damn, hold on. There is a little bit of a pattern. Now, just like anybody, he gets people to come up and cut for him. Tim Brown came up and cut for him and said, hey, listen, this guy's a great guy. I know him real well, whatever. But what was kind of disappointing, and one of the articles I read kind of alluded to it, is like, you look and you understand that there's a lot of this stuff going on about, this is what they think about you. Think about the Ice Cube.
This is what they think about you.
This is what they think about you.
Tony Dungy also spoke up for him. Tim Brown spoke up for Lou Holtz during the whole RNC thing. So I wasn't surprised that he spoke up for him. I think that I don't dispute what you're saying. It's obvious that there is some connectivity to what he did, and it looked like some racist undertones. My question, though, is, that aside, should something so private cost you publicly? Because his email, he never intended for that to be public. And not that I thought that what I was saying was, when I first saw the comments about the
Urban Meyer never got the booty tickle to be public. He never intended that to be public.
Fair, but that was somebody else captured that. That was on someone else's phone. This is through his email. All I'm saying is this, man, is that when I saw the Michelin tire comment, I thought it was funny because when you look at DeMaurice Smith, no matter who you are, black, white, anything in between, you notice that he has big lips. I thought it was something that people say to each other and about each other, both friends and enemies, out of jest.
Yeah, I think
it was more about the rubber lips lying. Okay, I was like, all right, he contacted somebody. That is disaster recovery. That is somebody like trying to spin it a certain way. The whole idea of like being rough lips is like, if I would have spun it, I would have spun it that way. So we know that he was talking about the size of his lips. My question, though, is something so private, should it be scrutinized publicly? And then eventually it cost him his job. And I'm not feeling sorry for Jon Gruden. I'm saying that any of us in any of our private exchanges, if we did not know they were going to be leaked publicly, might be a little saddened to see that they've been made public, because we say things in private that are meant to be funny. Amongst friends. Go ahead, ETP. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think that there should be repercussions or some level of addressing these comments or statements. I think the challenge is there's a few layers to it. One is, we as a society, it's like there are repercussions that are the greatest for what things people say, but not necessarily what people do, right? And so that becomes the biggest issue, where one of the more interesting elements of this, right? He said, when he said the racist, like when the racist comments came out, there was a lot of apologists, a lot of black people coming out and basically riding for Gruden and co-signing and supporting and saying we should accept this apology. But then more stuff came out, misogynistic, homophobic. There was not one gay person, there was not one woman that came out and said, look, this, I know him personally, we shouldn't take this too seriously. There was no
Zero
level of redemption.
Carl Nassib, the first openly gay player that plays for him, who was a great player, said he had to take a personal day. He was so hurt by it. No one spoke up for him.
Right. So that's the second point, right? So the thing that's interesting about Carl Nassib is, from what I read, he took a personal day because he was so devastated because of the actions that Jon Gruden portrayed throughout the process of him coming out, and how he was so supportive and everything that he did. He had no idea that Jon Gruden might have these views and make these types of statements, and that was devastating to him. So it's just, that adds some complexity to it, where this man, he's coaching, or was coaching, the first active openly gay athlete in the NFL, and was a supportive individual for this person. But then this information comes out, these words come out, and it devastates that player who looked at him as a confidant or as an ally in the process. So it just, no matter what, I think the challenge is the repercussions. There's no coming back from it, and it basically becomes, what you said is going to condemn you for life. It doesn't matter what your actions were before. It doesn't matter what your actions are going to be moving forward. And then, ironically, it being the Raiders, which is known to be one of the most progressive organizations in the league, with hiring.
San Francisco.
What's that?
I mean, San Francisco. It's like, you think about with the area, the Oakland area.
They were Oakland at that point.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, this, the general area is as liberal as you can get. The only thing, the question I put back kind of on the token of Bobby is, how far back in the past? Because you know what? There's a lot of people who are reading that story who felt the same way about Michael Sam, who now feel the same way about Nassib. Sorry, did I say that wrong? Nassib. Nassib. They feel accepting. We change. I've once said this before. There's very few white males over the age of 70 that didn't constantly hear the N-word being dropped when they grew up. And there's very few people over the age of 40 that didn't constantly hear the F word unchallenged being used when they grew up, right? And so
the F word being
the three-letter word, right?
Oh, God.
Three-letter word, or if you want
a homophobic slur. Now I can say a homophobic slur. God.
So my point is,
F word. I was like, we still hear
how
that.
many F words?
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I got you.
It's a new day. They're taking over. The F word is taking over. So anyway, my point is, we all grew up, and be honest, everybody look around each other. It was said all the time. Nobody cared. No one said anything. Now that LGBT community plus has kind of come out and become more mainstream, people are starting to realize, like, you know what, man, let's stop being this offensive and doing it. So is there a statute of limitations that you could go back? And I'm not saying I agree with, but it's a question to pose. Is there a statute of limitations? Because I guarantee there's a lot of people thinking, man, I hope they don't ever search this email.
Well, to your point, though, and even on this show, to be clear, when Carl Nassib came out, I said, who cares? And I was making the point that we've arrived at a new day where you shouldn't care when people are coming out. And I've since apologized, because I realized that I offended people by making that statement. And I was provided with documentation of young people in high school and how they become far more suicidal because they don't feel accepted. When I hear this story, it also reminds me, like, I was a bit insensitive saying that, who cares? But in the same token, the fact that he was able to make these what is now considered racist statements about DeMaurice Smith, the fact that he was able to talk about the women referees, and he talked about a lot of people. It was the LGBTQ community. In response to that comment, talking about Michael Sams and feeling as though he was forced to draft him, that's the one that killed him.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's just the truth of the matter.
And he used that slur.
He would survive the rubber lips comment.
Absolutely. He already survived.
Fine.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's funny because he came out quickly and he said, I don't have a racist. Well, actually, he said, I don't have a racial bone in my body, right? Like that was
every time.
So as soon as somebody says that, it's like somebody that's like, I'm really a nice person. When you know if you have to tell somebody you're a nice person, you're not a nice person. And if he didn't know, we live in the United States, right? So this is a country that is embedded with racism. And if you're in reality, if you're a white, straight, affluent male in this society, you might not have it in you might not have a bone, but there's something running through your veins a little bit. Like there's bias and there's prejudice and there's discrimination that we're all subjected to, and that we're all also participating in some capacity. So to come out so blatantly and say there's not a racial bone in my body, it's just like it's overcompensating for something that's so obviously not true, right? And I'm not saying that he enacts that, but there's bias. Like you're a straight white male and who makes a lot of money. So you're a wealthy straight white male. You can't be exposed and influenced much more by prejudice and discrimination in your thinking than that profile. And for him to try to dismiss that that's the most irresponsible. That's the biggest lie he told.
I think, and that's the one that got him. But in this episode, broken system of value. The truth of the matter is, we look back 8 years at his emails. How many other emails are in there? He might have resigned because the more emails that came out, the more people would have been in it. In this episode of Broken System of Value, the truth of the matter is, Jon Gruden was a backup quarterback at Dayton. Yet, if you look at his ascension, it was quick. Very quick. He got the GA role at Tennessee that a lot of players that played for Tennessee can't get. He became a head coach at 35 years old for the Oakland Raiders. 35. If you look at his stops before that, none of them were that impressive. He wasn't fired by the Raiders. He was traded. He was handed a Super Bowl team and got credit for Tony Dungy's team. Matter of fact, they called that Super Bowl the Gruden Bowl. Despite the fact that Bill Callahan was able to go 11-5 with that team, that Oakland team that he had a year before, it was called the Gruden Bowl. And then when Tampa Bay finally does fire him, they fire him in January of 2009. He is calling Monday Night Football games. He signs that deal by May of 2009. But ESPN doesn't stop there. He started calling college football games. They give him his own segment, Jon Gruden's quarterback camp, where he breaks down the intellect of quarterbacks. Not surprisingly, he made a lot of black quarterbacks look dumb in that segment. Yeah. So this broken system of value, right? While he's yelling Spider 2, why banana, making so many black quarterbacks, college quarterbacks look bad, the system itself had already been broken because it's a good old boy system that allowed him to ascend the ranks faster than anybody else. Simple and plain. So yes, he felt emboldened to say whatever he was saying by way of email. It's a system problem, not a Gruden problem. That's my point. Right. Even after he was fired, he comes up with this FFCA, Fired Football Coaches Association. Look at the number of people that went through his FFCA. Chip Kelly, Urban Meyer, Jim Haslett, Rick Venturi, Sean McVay, Greg Schiano, Monty Kiffin, all the players that went through there. Why am I saying all of this? Even after that, he was out of football for 9 years. They lured him back to coach what has now become the Las Vegas Raiders for 10 years, $100 million. You know how many people signed off on that? You know how many people have been in his company? You know how many people have understood that behind closed doors, whether it be email, text message, or just in person, he's saying misogynistic, homophobic, racist things? He seems so comfortable in that exchange. So there's a broken system of value that includes all of these people, all of these stops, the ability to ascend the ranks so quickly and have so many people bless his ascension. It ain't just Jon Gruden.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's why, for me, looking at it, firing somebody, forcing them to resign, whatever it is, it's basically just sacrificing lambs to keep the institution
100%.
protected, right?
100% right.
So from my perspective, Do you fire somebody in that situation, especially like, to Big Flo's point
He
about
resigned.
statute of limit? No,
even in
I know,
death
but
knell,
he
got
didn't. He
to
didn't
resign.
resign. He didn't resign on his own accord.
But you're right. But
Like,
they still gave him the chance to resign.
To resign.
They did, for sure. But I guess what I'm saying is, if we're talking about actually making progressive change and addressing this at a more systemic level, these are just, the reason is people just, they end up becoming, I don't want to say scapegoated, but they become made examples so that it creates a distraction away from the root of the matter, right? Like, this is a culture and an institution that has a long history of prejudice, discrimination, bias, good old boy network. I mean, you can go down the list of what the NFL and the organizations represent, but when individuals do something, they say this was the perfect opportunity for the NFL to say, we do not tolerate this type of behavior. We represent something greater than this. We are about equality and diversity and inclusion. This gave them such a PR opportunity, because we accept his resignation, and that there's no place in football for that.
But, fair, yes, absolutely. But when I think back on the I'm with Cap movement, and I challenged the I'm with Cap movement, because I was like, well, there's a lot of brothers who count on that viewership to be high, so the dollars are there. It's like, there's a lot. Cap is doing his thing, and I liked his protest. But I didn't want us to be a part of a boycott that was already convoluted, because the MAGA crowd was also saying they're boycotting. So that was my thing. But when I think back to that moment and how I was like, I don't know if that's the right answer, I understand. I understand why people think the NFL is a racist organization, because the broken system that I just described allowed that man to be a head coach at 35, allow that man, after 9 years of not being a coach. You know how tough it is to get a coach if you take a 9-year hiatus? And he got a 10-year, $100 million deal? I get where people have issue and call the NFL out on its isms. I don't know if you guys want to get last word. I did post one of these comments because we were trying to figure out, well, who leaked the emails? We never gonna know. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we will find out who leaked the emails. But my man Christian says, could there be a mob linked to his fire? Being in Vegas and making or not making the lines. The mob found and leaked the emails. Maybe, we shall not further that narrative, because I like my life a little bit too much. And I don't want to be the one to reveal that. But maybe it does beg to ask you, this whole idea of broken system, it's got to be a broken system too. You got all these lawyers investigating the Washington football team and that issue. This should not have been leaked. It should not have been leaked. So I'll give you guys any last words before we get on out of here. We got to do some NFL updates outside of Jon Gruden. Anybody want to get anything off their chest real quick before we move on?
I'll say this. Yeah, maybe it should or shouldn't have been leaked. There's the Freedom of Information Act. Once things start to get out in the public and their discovery, who knows what happens with that. But at the end of the day, once it's leaked, the public reception is there. And as a player, you can't be expected to play for a guy like that. And this goes back to the Urban Meyer situation as well. Is this guy supposed to be a leader? He gets paid a lot of money to tell people, grown men, what to do, and grown millionaires what to do and how to play and how to conduct themselves. And I can't be expected to play for a man that he got everybody. He crossed everybody off and did everything. So, hey, Gruden, bye.
Anything ETP before we move on?
No, I think you hit it. I just going through doing the research and seeing all these pictures. Jon Gruden looks like how does he have a face that is all the time? Looks like he's yawning in a meeting. He's like holding in a yawn the whole time. That's his face.
He does have a funny face, man. And look, he went to high school in South Bend, Indiana.
I know, it's crazy.
My first time ever in South Bend, Indiana as a freshman. I remember we were number one recruiting class, and we walking across the quad to the first meet with Coach Holtz. And as a car drives by, I say, "Get out of here, you N-words." And I realized that I was no longer in South Florida. I think that Jon Gruden is who he is and has been who he has been. And to ascend the ranks that far, that quickly, we've been doing this whole red flags thing on social media. There were red flags, but in a broken system of value where there are no values other than the value of money, a lot of times, he was able to be the darling of the ball despite the red flags. Other NFL news, a little brighter. A black quarterback that's doing his thing, got to segue that way. Because when I look at that quarterback camp, man, he made a lot of college quarterbacks. Black brothers look silly on that, though. Right?
We're gonna go back and we're gonna be like, how come we didn't know?
How do we miss it? There were red flags. Spider 2, why banana? Anyway, another black. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was gonna say I don't think it's about how did we not know. It's like it's just the evolution of like having intolerance or having a higher tolerance for intolerance than now. Like we're starting, like all these things are starting to come out. Like it doesn't mean that we didn't feel that or see that or it didn't affect us in the past. It's just we're fortunate in some respects now that stuff can be talked about. It can be called out where, I mean, we've all had experience where we just had to keep our mouth shut, and it's because that's the culture. And as messy as all of this is, at least, people talk about cancel culture. I don't know if I'd rather it just be accepting culture, because the things that were happening in the past and the effects that it had, it's not that it's a surprise. It's like, it's a surprise that people are actually seeing repercussions of it now.
Facts.
Very fair. That's final word, man. Like it. Matter of fact, love it. Lamar Jackson, he putting the team on his back in overtime against the Colts. And when I say putting his team on his back, he was responsible for 499 out of 523 total yards. That is a whopping 95.4% of the offense. And if I'm his agent, I say we need 95.4% of the salary cap. That means, bro, that's me. Like, yo, pay me. They came back after being down 22-3 in the third quarter. It was nothing short of Superman. Lamar Jackson is shutting a lot of people up. A lot of people say he should change positions in the NFL. Jon Gruden probably said it.
Well, he said, sure, I'll change it. I'll take every position. You want me to change positions? I'll play them all.
Hey, we said there in the Ball Hog Sports Talk, we were trying to find who the second best running back was in the NFL. We said it might be Lamar Jackson. He showed
what's most impressive to me is, the NFL is got real smart guys on defense. So typically somebody beats you up one year. The next year, usually they figure it out. They spend the whole offseason going to camp or whatever, talking about how are we going to stop this, how are we going to stop that. So you see a lot of big, hot MVP type guys come back next year, especially running quarterbacks, and then they bottom up. Lamar getting better.
He's getting better and better.
And they've had time to prepare. He's getting better and better. So I'm happy as hell to see it.
They say they learn how to defend you, but what they didn't factor in that is maybe he's indefensible. On the other side of that, a quarterback who seems to be defensible now is Patrick Mahomes. He backed up the Brinks truck and took 95.4% of that salary cap. And now the Kansas City, and I'm exaggerating, barely, but now Kansas City looks vulnerable, man. They did Mahomes' contract, did it essentially create the death knell of what was Kansas City Chiefs. And is he still a quarterback that's worth that type of money? The flaws are starting to come out.
Yeah. I mean, it shows that to that point, there needs to be that balance of, I mean, Tom Brady broke the system, right? How do you figure out how to take money, but he took less money in order to build, allow them to build teams around him. Mahomes signing that groundbreaking deal, which I think was a bad deal for him because he could have gotten more money later, and a bad deal for the present day for the team because, now the rest of the team is gutted. The defense is Swiss cheese at this point, and they may not even make the playoffs with the best quarterback in the league. Like if they keep playing the way that they are, it's a delicate balance on the business side, but I don't think they should be playing as poorly as they are. They didn't lose that many players on defense this year.
They should have lost. They talked about them easily. They should have been 4-0. And I said they also could have been, at that point it was like, I don't remember what the number. ESPN was talking about. They should have lost the Browns game. The punter decided to give the game away. They played poorly or average in every game, right? They really had. So we shall see, man, what Kansas City amounts to. But it goes to show you, like, the Tom Brady way, and I hate to say it, but I got to give him credit. Like, he deferred a lot of money. He could have always been the highest paid player in the NFL. And he's got rings to show. And it looks like, because they won again last week. They opened up this week of football by winning again. And it was a good game, actually. Surprisingly, it was a very good game.
I turned it off and came back later and found out it was good. I said, "Oh man, I thought
it was a very good game, man." Tampa was able to hold on. The question that has to be asked, and I know we all hate Cowboys fans because they walk around calling themselves America's team. I live in America. That ain't my team. But I gotta ask: are the Cowboys back of their champion? Are they in their championship ways of the '90s? Are the Cowboys back? Yes or no? Put our begrudging feelings aside. Put our hate of the star and our hate of their fans and the way we despise how they dress up whenever they win and go, how about them Cowboys? Let's put that aside and look at it just from a football perspective. Are the Cowboys back to their championship ways? Let's be objective here, gentlemen.
I'm going to quote the great
Randy
Watson, and I'm going to use his very articulate statement and say no. Because look, they're playing great. It's the Cowboys, man. They can't pull the wool just yet. It's going on week 6. We got to give it some time. Everybody wants to. I mean, I think we went through this with them a few years ago too.
Last year before Dak Prescott,
Tony Romo, all of this time. It's no. Hard no.
Hard no.
All right, be objective here.
I hate to come behind something that was so well spoken, but no, I think they're just setting themselves up for the bigger fall. You know what I mean? Like, let's just trick them even more. How about those Cowboys? People punching their ticket and buying the Super Bowl tickets. It's an economy sparker. Everyone's gonna go out there happy, but there's gonna be a big fall. I don't know what's gonna spark it. I don't know if it's going to be an injury or whatever, but it'll be a bad turnover. But they'll find a way to still snatch defeat from the jaws of victory some way and really be embarrassing to themselves.
I'm going to go out.
And I'm looking forward to that day, by the way, in case you're curious.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and be the spoiler here in this room. I join each of you in our hate for the Cowboys.
Fantastic.
But I disagree when it comes to football, man. They real deal, man. Dak Prescott playing great. Defense finally doing something. They got, look, receivers.
Next time.
I know. We want to switch it, but look, and I'm going to edit this out after the fact. The Cowboys for real, man. They for real, man. The Cowboys are for real. We just got to deal with it.
They always should be for real. They have so much talent.
They have a lot of talent. But and that's what it boils down to. They have talent. Jerry Jones, somehow, some way, amassed a lot of talent. Yeah. And there it is, man. They're a good team. Dak Prescott's a great leader. Ezekiel Elliott is not what I was hoping he would be. Done. He's playing well now. So
Trayvon Diggs is the greatest defensive receiver of the season.
Look, whenever you can in week 5 or whatever, get rid of Jalen Smith, who was on course last year in the conversation at least for Defensive Player of the Year. Whenever you can get rid of him, that just shows you that you drafted right with Micah Parsons. It just shows that your defense is faster. Jalen Smith was like the 5th linebacker at some points in those sets. And he's a great player still. It just shows what they've been able to do on defense. And I got to be objective here because in the Ball Hog Sports Talk and Sports Business Entertainment, my objective sports view is Cowboys going to be in the NFC Championship, man. And we're going to have to hear, how about them Cowboys?
Write that down. We're writing that down.
Yeah, they got NFC Championship, man. I don't think they're a Super Bowl champion team, but being in it, you got to be in it to win it. They're going to be close to it. They got a good team, man. And look, they're in a division with nobody else. So, there's 6 games there that they're playing against essentially my East Orange Junior Jaguars Mighty Mites. They ain't got nobody else in the division. It is what it is. The Eagles aren't flying. The Giants are horrible, worst team in the league. And the Washington football team is average at best. So you got 6 games that are almost shoe-ins. They're going to be there, man. I hate to admit it. And for all y'all who want to be, how about them Cowboys and be obnoxious for the whole season, just go play in traffic, as someone like to say. Go play in traffic. All right, we got to get into some college football, man. Because, you know what? I was going to try to be a sore loser and not make this fact be known, but I can't do that. The Browns are now known as the best loser in the NFL, meaning that no one in history, if we figure out a way to do everything on the wrong side of this, no one in history has ever scored 42 points, had over 500 yards. They had 42 points, had 532 yards with 0 turnovers, yet they figured out a way to lose against the Chargers. And now they've created a whole different stat. First time that's ever happened. And now let's move on to college football. That hurts my heart.
I like how you move smoothly away from that.
Man, that one hurt, bro. I can't lie. I was talking trash to this dude in the bar, man. And, oh man, that one hurt. You know, he made the Browns made it. You know, almost made a grown man cry in public. But oh well. On to the next week. College football though. Nick Saban, who we said was dusting off the mantle for yet another trophy, who we said book it. Alabama wins. We said that here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide have lost in the regular season. Nick Saban, right, finally loses to someone that was his assistant coach. Is this on the Broken System of Value episode? Is this a new value system, a new chain of command? Is this now Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide being mere mortals? Great game, but they lost. Or is this just a speed bump on the way to another championship? I'll start with you. What you think, Big Flo?
This is like searing your steak. You know, you put it on real hot, you burn the sides a little bit so the juices stay in the middle. All he did was sear the steak. If you look at Alabama, they usually have 1 or 2 hiccups. Sometimes they lose, sometimes it's a close one. But don't get yourself mixed up. This just helped. Saban lost the game, so now practice can get turned up and they can act like they got all these things to fix. And I don't want to be the team that they play this week. I know that. Are they playing a Barber College this week or are they playing this week?
Barber Tech. I was so ready to change the whole order of power because Clemson was on the brink of not being in the top 25. Alabama loses. And I was just ready to sing and dance. And yes, we robbed it a new day. You saying not so fast, my friend. I can't party yet.
No, we're not going to burn that steak. You just seared it a little bit. Just put a little something to lock the juices in. That's all they do.
Penn State. Sorry, ETP. I know if you want Nick Saban juice or not, since he's searing the steak. Any Nick Saban juice for you?
No, I think this is just good fuel for the rest of the season. They're too talented. They got the strength. You know, the assistant. They got the playbook. Jimbo Fisher. He's been in the system. He knows how to get it. He squeaked it out.
Finally,
you can't be a dynasty. You take that. You're gonna take your eye off the ball every once in a while. So
yeah, that's one of those stats that had to come to an end.
Yeah,
no one shoots 100%.
You're undefeated against. You know how many coaches were under his coaching tree that have gone on to be head coaches that he's played, and no one had beat him. It's one of the things that's got to end. So
yeah, and they all helped Jimbo Fisher. like, this is what you got to do.
This is what you got to do. Don't look him in the eyes.
We got to have a conference.
Don't look him in the eyes.
Imagine what those emails look like.
Yeah, that was a game against 24 of his former assistant coaches.
Yeah, they all called. They had a whole conference call. You got to beat Nick. Penn State lost by 3 to Iowa. Great game in overtime, but Penn State had also, because Cowboys fans on the NFL level, Penn State fans are pretty annoying too on the college level. Let me just go ahead.
They think they created. We are
indeed. First of all, but Penn State fans thought that this was they back. Penn State is going to dominate college football. They seem to be vulnerable. Iowa's a good team. The Big Ten, I think, won. Despite the fact that Penn State lost and having a really good matchup, a top 10 matchup, the Big Ten seems to be the winner here. But is Penn State for real or not? Thumbs up, thumbs down on Penn State making the college football playoffs. What do you think?
Penn State or Iowa?
I'm saying Penn State, even with the loss, because Penn State is the bigger story here. You're saying thumbs down. You can make it with one loss, and especially that fashion, overtime field goal loss. Yeah. You can still make it.
I mean, if they go win the Big Ten championship outright, if they go out and beat Ohio State, and the good thing about that conference and just some of those Power Five, you got a conference championship. So if you have one loss and you go win your conference championship, you've went out and beat the best. So they might see those teams. They might see Iowa again.
Yeah. I don't think Iowa's a college football playoff team. Just the eye test.
No, but they could win the Big Ten West, and then they could play the conference championship. Penn State wins. The only way Penn State's going to make it is if they win out.
They went out, right?
And Ohio State, and then it even makes it even better if Iowa wins out and gets the championship, and they play them in a rematch for the Big Ten championship. And if they beat
it's
them,
down to Iowa and Michigan as the 2 undefeated teams in the Big Ten, correct? I think so.
Oof, probably no. Michigan State. Michigan
State's undefeated too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, Big Ten. I don't know when you put Rutgers in any conference.
Rutgers.
Being a man who lives here in New Jersey, I'm going
to Rutgers game tomorrow. By the way, so give me some good stuff to say about them.
Good stuff to say about them.
I'm going to go watch Ruptures play tomorrow.
Ruptures, man, we're playing Ruptures. Another college story that we got to talk about. We want Caleb. We talked about that last week. That the OU fans, Oklahoma, wanted Caleb. And by Caleb, they meant Caleb Williams, the backup quarterback. Well, they got what they wanted. OU had to bench Spencer Rattler. They ended up winning the game without Spencer Rattler. He did come in and throw a 2-point conversion, which was odd. I guess he just wanted to show
that was weird.
That was weird, man. I benched you, but come in and get me these 2 points. Maybe the backup quarterback had practice to play.
Keep out the portal. They try to keep him out the portal.
It seems so weird to bring him in there. But yes, that's Spencer Rattler, who is the star of QB1 on Netflix. That's Spencer Rattler, who has been one of the leaders of what is the new name, image, and likeness frontier, getting deals thrown at him left and right. That Spencer Rattler was on the bench, and it begs to question, in this new name, image, and likeness world, is the return on investment now completely squandered?
Nah, he's still in the media. We're still talking about him. Like we talked about him today. He's still going to go. He's still trending. He still has the followers. At the end of the day, you make your money off those followers on the social media, and it's drama. We like drama, so people are going to be checking and see what does he have to say, how is he going to conduct himself, and things of that nature. So no, I don't think that it's going to hit the return on investment because we haven't seen the last of Spencer Rattler.
Good old Spencer.
So.
ETP, anything with Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still going to be part of the story for at least for the rest of the year. He's definitely not a top draft pick prospect, so he'll probably do another year, and they may take the cars back, but the investment, the return on investment is there. The media value is there. They've already made a ton of money on the media value, so it's just a matter of if they extend it or what the terms of the contract were. They could have had terms in there if you're not starting at any at any school, then the deal is void. So it all depends on the terms of the deal.
I'll say this: when they said we want Caleb, you better believe I got my own Caleb. For those of you who are listening and you cannot see, one of my fellow assistant coaches, what's up, Coach Patrick, reminds me we got Caleb. He's the smallest guy on our team, but got a heart of a lion. We've instituted a new play for him this week. We want Caleb. We about to win it this week. But with no further ado, because I want everybody to like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know. Please subscribe in the podcast world. Please subscribe on YouTube. With no further ado, we cooking up some hot fish grease here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk. I'm gonna let Big Flo do it, but I want y'all to know that coming up, we got some hot stuff, man. We got a doctor in the house. Big Flo Show. Tell them what we got, man. Y'all stay tuned. Let's listen to this. Man.
We got a doctor in the house, right? This guy's a former teammate and friend of mine. Great numbers on this guy: 17, 9, and 15. 17th pick in the NFL draft, 9 years in the NFL, 15 years in the NFLPA. Without further ado, put your hands together for Dr. Tom Carter.
Yeah.
TC, as we like to call him. TC was a man of few words, man. So he kept his TC, put his thumbs up, and go back and forth, man. But for those of you guys who have watched this show and watched the Big Flo Show, I had a great interview with TC earlier this week. If you look at the Big Flo Show, my Facebook page or on YouTube, you can check out the entire interview. But it was so good, we had to bring him here. I had to share. Sometimes you got to share with your friends.
Appreciate it.
I had to bring him on this show and let you guys do this. But TC now is with Carter Allo Consulting. Great transition right now, talking about NIL, which has been a common theme with us this week. I wanted to bring him on. So, again, welcome, Tom.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you for coming, my brother. Welcome to the Ball Hog Sports Talk, man. Any friend of the Big Flo Show is a friend of the Ball Hog Sports Talk. He said he was your teammate in college, but you look way younger than him, man. I don't know.
Come on.
Yeah, I took a shot. Hey, at least it wasn't an email. I'll take my shots publicly, baby. I'll take my
flag. I know. I see you lost your wife's hat.
Yeah, I did. I put the church hat aside. I was like, it's too distracting. It was serious content, so I had to put the hat aside. Okay. How was the interview? The Big Flow Show. Tell us what the interview was about. We do name, image, and likeness very frequently here. So the Big Flow Show, you take over and thank you for sharing.
Again, we talked about Tom's kind of his life coming up and everything there. And, I won't steal that. So you go listen for that. But I want to bring him on today because we talk about NIL a lot. Let's talk about Carter Allo as a consulting firm. Again, we mentioned the fact that you were in the NFL. We mentioned the fact that you worked for the NFLPA. Talk to me about Carter Allo and what the new frontier is going to bring for Tom Carter.
Yeah, this NIL, guys, obviously, it's the Wild West. What I did at the PA for 15 years, part of my job was basically compliance. And so my heart as a father, I had a son come to the NFL. So each one of these young men I see as a kid now.
Hold on. You had not only did you play in the NFL, you had a son that played in the NFL. Man, clap for this man. We're going to get to the point where we got like applause and stuff now. You got to just deal with real applause now, man. I wasn't going to just let that pass by. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's awesome, brother. Go ahead.
Appreciate it, brother. I know Big Flo has a son coming up, and my youngest daughter is a D1 basketball player. So,
good genes.
Yeah.
Mighty Davidson.
Davidson College. But just seeing.
She got a Steph Curry? Does she have a Steph Curry or is she more?
No, she's the reincarnation of her dad, a 5'11" center.
Oh. Okay.
It might not be too good in basketball, but hey, scholarship.
Let's do it.
So I couldn't imagine, my kids, being able to represent themselves against seasoned negotiators, right? A marketing rep, an agent, financial planner. So Carter Allo is basically, in that stead to make sure kids are, choose the proper representation. Okay. Just more so being in compliance, helping the universities and the unions out. Because you guys talk about NIL. I know you guys are great. I'm a history person, former high school teacher. And so NIL basically started, when we were kids. Caitlyn Jenner, then known as Bruce Jenner, was like the first athlete probably to get, endorsement, Wheaties box.
Right.
Then me growing up, O.J. Simpson was the first football guy I saw in a Hertz commercial.
Right.
Fast forward to, a guy named Michael Jordan who changed the whole game. Right. That was the official start of athletes and branding and selling en masse. Magic and Bird had a little shoe, but it was nothing like Jordan's. And then it comes to football. One of my big messages for NIL is, in the late 80s, this thing called the quarterback club. Mm-hmm. And so what young people have to understand is football is always going to start with the quarterbacks. Okay. Getting those guys together, getting the name, image, and likeness, because that's where the money is. And I heard about a young man from Oklahoma, the young man from Ohio State, but it's more so educating. I like to call it big fish syndrome.
Yeah.
Right. All of us right here, we remember my biggest fish moment was high school, sad to say. Because the day I stepped on the college campus, they had a guy named Rocket Ishmael.
We heard him. Yeah,
and no, you are no longer the big fish.
Right.
Right. And I know we all think we are. Even in professional side of the marketing, you got tiers, A, B, C, D. And no one wants to hear the D player, marketing wise. And so that's sometimes the hard lessons that what's going on now in the NIL space. I talk to high school parents and kids. They all saying, well, why don't I have this deal?
Is that tough? Because when you say that, when you talk about the tiers, because Jim Boeheim this week in an interview with his own son, Buddy Boeheim, he talked about how the money flow is really just going to certain players. And it was interesting, kind of weird, because his son is the one getting the money on his team. And he put another one of the players on the spot. It's like, well, do you guys resent that? But there are tiers. And so, I've been saying, and I love hearing you describe it as the Wild Wild West, because that's how we've described it here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk, what the new name, image, and likeness space is. But I also took the stance that I'm afraid that while we are in this Wild Wild West moment, young people will be exploited.
Yes.
And so when you say Jordan as a historian of name, image, and likeness, we still paying $200 for the name Jordan to be on sneakers, right? There's been a lot of people that have come and gone since then and have gotten deals, but it hasn't had staying power. And so I guess when I think of what you're doing, the service that you're providing, How do you work around that, making sure that the players don't get exploited and families?
Yeah, basically, I'm setting term limits and I'm telling families not all deals are good deals, right? If I get a young, Tom Carter freshman year who's not playing, then, I sign a 5-year deal past my college term. Your value is not now you're a first round draft pick and they paying you money to go to a restaurant for free.
Right.
So, understanding kids and knowing their value, telling the parents, if you have the leverage to sign a year by year, do that. Because, you can go from being a redshirt freshman on the bench to starting. Barry Sanders, right? Go from nothing to a Heisman Trophy. So
I thought you was going to use me as the example there because I went from red shirt freshman doing my thing. But Barry Sanders is a good example too. Good example too.
Yeah. So obviously, I want to protect the families. I call it the predators in the business, right? You're going to have some companies, and you got to see down, like play the chess match, right? If I'm a company and I got a 5-star kid, I'm gonna try to sign him for 10 years. If you give Tom Carter a single, only child with single mom working 3 jobs. If you came to me in high school and gave me $100,000, I'm like, give it to me.
Right.
You can't see 5 years down the road. So who is going to help these young men and women, make these decisions right now? Because it's, like I said, it's not fair. Some of them come from, stressed backgrounds. And even we have a whole ecosystem set for professional athletes. And Bob, this, start with our agents to our financial planners to our marketing reps. And these people, so now you're going to make a group of 15, 19-year-olds do something that we don't ask the professionals to do.
And even in the professional level, a lot of us don't do it well.
We don't do it
which is why
well.
you have the episode Broke at ESPN. So
yes.
Now you're making it even worse with young people. Thanks for explaining that, man. I'm glad that they have you and the consulting business that you have started in their corner. That's awesome, brother.
Yeah. Tom, I have a question in regards to, so while, we all have seen Wild Wild West, how do you see some level of standardization? Do you still see over time that like the NCAA and the schools and the conferences staying totally out of this? Or do you see there being some level of like governance and true compliance on the institutional side to maintain some standards? Or is it still going to be like all the athletes are at their discretion based on state regulations? Like, do you see it actually evolving to be a bit more structured, or it's always going to be this way?
I think so, because I think the NCAA and the schools are saying, stay away from our nest egg, which is the, this TV revenue, licensing revenue. It's like, if you want to just get yours, get yours. They hope, my opinion is they hope that it would die out, but it won't.
Right.
But like I said, that the issue they're going to have right now is that people are going to be wanting to be a part of the Notre Dame brand. They're going to come get scholarship player number 84 just to say I represent Notre Dame.
Right.
And so I'm telling parents and kids right now, even in recruiting, you got schools are saying you can use our image and likeness to sell, and some schools saying you cannot.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so schools are getting into sticky territories. So if a kid uses their helmet and they have to come to and tap on the shoulder, like, you got to take that down. Like, why? I say, well, that's ours, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to get pretty sticky.
Now, do you think, you kind of touched on some points where they might start competing for that same dollar, right? I mean, in the NFL, you see it already now in professional sports where, Beats by Dre is a headphones they give to people, but then I think Bose was the official NFL headphones, so there's a little controversy. But you're talking about professionals getting paid. But now it's like, okay, do I want to try to sponsor this NFL or this college team, or do I want to sponsor Tom Carter? You know what I mean? That's the poor man's. And now it's like, okay, they start saying, man, we're competing for dollars here. Yes. Hey, Notre Dame, if you guys won't take this $2 million deal, I'm just going to offer your starters $100,000, and we're going to do that. Do you see that becoming a major issue?
Yeah, and you're going to see it in basketball first. When the next LeBron James or Kevin Durant comes, and let's say they want to go to Notre Dame, and Nike signs them, now Notre Dame has to make a decision. We're Under Armour school. Mm-hmm. Do I want this kid to come and play for me, or am I going to tell him he can't get on the court because he's wearing Nikes?
Mm-hmm. That's a tough one.
So that's where we're going right now, and you're going to see it in basketball first. So some of these kids, that next LeBron or Kevin Durant will dictate that.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, we talked about in the earlier segment, Caleb taking over at Oklahoma. After the game, they didn't make him available for interviews, right?
Yeah.
Lost a big opportunity to take a lot of followers. It's a lot of stuff for marketing. They took money out of his pocket. Mm-hmm. But I understand Oklahoma's standpoint is I'm not trying to tear my locker room up with this quarterback controversy and you guys anointing this guy and whatever. So how do you see the transition of the balance of saying, you got a non-professional athlete right now and you got to do what's best for the team versus what's best for this player. And that was a very big moment right there where you see they stepped on his toes. How do you see that being ironed out? And you see that somewhere where somebody could he file a grievance?
They say something in that movie. Get your hand out my pockets.
Does that guy have a grievance he can fire?
Yeah, and that's what happened. And I'm a big fan of history, right? So go back to the 80s in the NFL. When the quarterback started getting paid, the first thing the linemen started saying, "Hey, I'm the one letting you get paid."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're starting to see the trickle down effect in colleges. The kids use the word hateration, right? I'm up here protecting this dude, and he riding around in F-150s and getting deals, and I'm making him look good.
That was Jim Boeheim's point. Like somebody gonna start resenting your pockets a little more.
Somebody gonna start resenting your pockets just a little bit. That offensive line might not get that same love, and if you're not a nice guy on top of that, that's a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the issues that are going to trickle down to college. People seeing that. But to answer your question, Flo, yes, that's why schools are scared to death, because now you're going to give the kid what you've always done, media access, or you're going to tell everybody they can't do media. So they got to choose a lane.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone sees some inconsistencies, B. Brown, as attorney, you can just say that's not consistent with your past practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Tom, you said something kind of glossed over it, but I'm curious as to your perspective. Like, does this completely close the door on any revenue sharing from the NCAA or from the schools with the athletes where they would get compensated? Like, does NIL, is that the bone that they threw to just totally say, all right, don't come for any of our money? Or is that conversation like the Ed O'Bannon, court cases, is that still on the table, or do you think this has totally cut the legs off?
No, there it is. We paying attention. No pressure, Tom. No pressure at all, Dr. Carter. No pressure at all. But that's the question everybody wanted to hear right there. Now, what you got for us now?
The NCAA, they took the bone, hoping that would distract the players from the real goal. Yeah. Now, Jeffrey Kessler, who's been our NFL lead attorney for 30-some years, who's basically done all the pro-union negotiation deals. Jeffrey is on the scene, and he is a definition of a pit bull. And I think the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh in his ruling basically said, I'm paraphrasing what he said, is like the school's making all the money off these 85 players and 10 players in basketball, and they're not sharing.
Right.
So he already threw the gauntlet out to make it say, hey, you can't get $200 million bucks in revenue and not pay the 80 players that got it for you.
Yeah, he basically said that you can't create that rule and then be protected by the rule, right? You're making all of this money and then using the idea and concept of amateurism as the reason why you're not sharing the money with the guys that you're using to pay the money. I love the Kavanaugh ruling, by the way.
So
go ahead.
Yes, to answer your question, it's coming, right? And so the NCAA, this might buy them some time, hopefully, to let the premier athletes, the quarterback club, in essence, let the QBs get their money in college right now. And the market is self-correcting, right? I was humble when I got to college, and I found that even if it was NIL, there would be no deals for a defensive back. There's only one defensive back. Deion Sanders, the only person defensive back, Sherman recently, but there's just no deals. Nobody wants to tag to a DB.
That's because y'all divas are crazy. Nobody want to hear all that kind of crazy Pac-Man Jones type stuff.
So I got to ask Dr. Carter and Big Flow Show, how do we and others find the long version of your interview? I'm sure it's riveting stuff. I want to make sure I get to it as well.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, thanks a lot, Dr. Carter, for coming on the show. If we want to see more of our interview, talk about these topics in length and Dr. Carter's history, although we don't touch on him being a doctor, we'll let that kind of be a mystery, let you guys research that on your own. You can go to the Big Flow Show on our Facebook page, and then we also have a YouTube channel, the Big Flow Show, and check out Dr. Dom Carter.
Dr. Carter, thank you so much, my brother. Really appreciate you, man. You are welcome back to the Ball Hawk Sports Talk anytime, my brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for what y'all do,
Appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Love you, buddy.
Take
All right.
care. Thanks.
To see a Notre Dame man wear a doctor in front of him gives you a sense of pride. But to know that that same man is going to help young people, protect them, make sure they're not exploited, make sure they're navigating this wild, wild west of name, image, and likeness, because we've talked about it so much here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk, just gives us, I know it gives me a huge sense of pride, and I didn't play with him, but at Notre Dame, it's all a fraternity. We all know each other, man. Very proud of that brother, man. You guys make sure that if you know someone that is contemplating a name, image, and likeness deal, and they need some assistance, please use his services, because that brother seems to have his head on straight. And to have been in the NFLPA for how many years? How many? 15?
15 years. NFL
15 years. Means he knows what he's doing. So y'all make sure y'all go and support the brother's business, man. That's good stuff, man. That's taking name, image, and likeness to, it's taking name, image, and likeness to a whole nother level, y'all. I think we on a whole nother level right now, man. I'm feeling ourselves. How about that?
Mm-hmm. This is important information, man. It's just helpful.
It is.
So
it really is important information, man. Too many of these young people just don't have the guidance, and so to see that he's helping provide that seems cool. Where do we go from here, y'all? I lost some train of thought. I got really into that, man. Yeah, where are we going from here, ETP? Now, NBA. Help me navigate, man.
NBA.
NBA. We got to go to NBA. Oh, Kyrie. Man, that interview was so good, brother. I forgot about Kyrie. How could I forget about Kyrie? In this episode of Broken System of Value, Kyrie is about to potentially put at risk $200 million worth of contract revenue. And of course, someone will pick him up. But the Brooklyn Nets have gone on record and saying, hey, well, if he's not available, that's not okay with us. The number one ability in all types of ability is availability. And if you're telling me because of the mandate in the respective arenas in the NBA that he won't be available, then we've got to make some tough decisions. Where are we going with this Kyrie thing, man? Is he a hero? Because some have said and he said it himself, he's the voice of the voiceless. He came out with a social media post that didn't make much sense to me. It wasn't a lot of substance, but he was basically saying, don't believe what you hear in the media. But then he didn't tell us anything. But he's been donned as the voice of the voiceless. He's been donned as the Muhammad Ali. People have called him the Muhammad Ali of the vaccine moment. He's not anti-vax, but yet he is, dare I say, pro-choice when it comes to vaccination and willing to put his money where his mouth is. In this episode of Broken System of Value, all you got to do is follow the money. Value in terms of your morale and your convictions. Normally they say follow the money. When it came to Andrew Wiggins, we followed the money. He's like, it don't mean that much to me. I'm going to get this.
You meant
shot.
Money.
Money. But with Kyrie, he's staying true to the choice. Fellas, he could be risking $200 million if he never plays another play of basketball.
Three. Yeah.
Right. I don't know, man. Choice matters to me. It does. But it don't matter to me $200 million. But that's me. For Kyrie, it seems to matter that much. And Brooklyn is doing what they have to do because they have a right to choose as well. They want to choose an available player to be in their backcourt. Is it worth it? Should he be celebrated? Is he crazy? Or is Kyrie still, because I've given him a lot of praise about just being very thought-provoking and forward-thinking, is he just a savant such that it's over my head? I can't understand it because he too deep like that.
He is clearly unapologetically an individual. Like, he is unapologetic in what he thinks is best for him and what he thinks is right in the world. That's what he's going to do. For this week, I fully respect that he's committed to his decision. We'll see once the bills start piling up if he folds like Andrew Wiggins, but I don't look at it, the associations to being considered a hero or a voice for the voiceless, all of these things, that's out the window to me. Like if anybody is looking to Kyrie as their, I mean, everybody that's speaking out and saying that he's such a hero, these are people that condemned him for actually speaking out about anything unrelated to basketball, right? Like all these like people that were on the far right, these shouldn't be saying anything. They're there to be an athlete, and now they're praising him because it's in line with their values. So all I can do is respect somebody that sticks to their convictions and is consistent. And if he's consistent, it is what it is. I'm not losing any money because of his decision.
Outside of family, I know that you would give your life for your son. Outside of family, right? Is there any decision on earth that you would make to give up $200 million? You would give up $200 million to save your son. Other than that, I don't know. $200 million. I can go save a whole country with $200 million US dollars.
Like we talked about, I would love for somebody to give me that dilemma, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. Let me smell. Let me taste it. Hey, let me taste it.
The number got way bigger when you compare Andrew Wiggins to Kyrie. Right? It got way bigger. Way bigger. The Big Flow Show. Come on, man. $200 million.
It's hard. Here's the thing, though. It's like this is one of those rush to judgment things. When I first hear it, you hear $200 million, all this stuff, and I'm like, man, this dude is a fool. But then, in doing prep for the show, you start doing research, you're reading, and you start seeing all the things that Kyrie's been doing. Buying house for George Floyd's mama, and
water in Pakistan,
water in Pakistan. $270,000 or something like that, and Thanksgiving turkeys and all this stuff. This is who he is, man. Right? It's his money. He ain't hurting nobody. People get so mad, but why we get so mad and emotional that another man is go? I don't want the Nets to win no way. So let's be honest. I ain't too mad. Go ahead, Kyrie. Sit up out of there. Because I want the Lakers to win this next one. But you know what? At the end of the day, go, hey, Kyrie, we don't need you over there, man. You ain't got to get vaccinated in LA.
I was so impressed with your
but you know what I'm saying?
I can't keep it 100%.
But it's like you want to judge him. You want to say all these things, but you got to take a step back and say, look, he's not hurt. This is basketball. He's not hurting anybody, right?
Yeah.
He's giving up money that wasn't going to us, that he decided. The government might get mad they're going to get crapped out on a little bit of tax dollars or whatever. They want to throw to boo his ass. But you know what? He said, I'm not anti-vax. I'm pro-choice. You know what, Kyrie, if that's how you feel, God bless you, man. I can't sit here and dog you for what? Dog you because of why? Because I don't get to watch you play basketball anymore.
Street, right? So he's saying that he's the voice for the voiceless. It's all about the choice. And I respect that because in this episode of Broken System of Value, it seems as though that his value system is indeed not broken to be the voice of the voiceless. But to me, it's like a two-way street because each one of these states, each one of these private restaurants and establishments, each one of these franchises, private franchises, they also have a choice to be like, no, man, you can't play if you're not protecting the other players, the fans, and we already are putting lives and families at risk. You got to take this step. So I respect the fact that he is saying he's the voice of the voiceless and it's about choice, but it just seems as though this wouldn't be the sword that I would die on.
Yeah, but let's be clear. Let's be clear on it's not the league, right? The league did something really. I mean, the players' union fought against the vaccine mandate, right? So everybody everybody that's associated with the league, except for the players, are mandated to get the vaccine, but the players are not mandated. The issue is that he plays in New York City, which has a vaccine mandate. So his position is, I was protected by the union. I didn't have to get the vaccine, but now there's this outside force that's requiring that I do it. I wasn't prepared for it, and this is a decision that I'm making for myself. So it's not that cut and dry, but still, again, he is foregoing all of that value and success and whatever else he was going to do with the team. But just to clarify, it wasn't the league's imposition. It was the city.
But I don't think there's anyone in the NBA that's voiceless. Here's the only problem I have. Only criticism, I should say. Problem is the wrong phrase. Criticism I have of it. If you compare what he's doing to what Kaepernick did some stuff where he's sacrificed a lot. He's a villain for a lot to people forever. He's a hero to some people forever, whatever. But say whatever you want to say about Kaepernick. Change is was brought upon, right? There's been a lot of social change that's happened that is 100% due to what Kaepernick started. The problem is what Kyrie's doing is they're not going to stop mandating this because of anything, any protest that he's doing, whatever. They're going to mandate the shot because they want to get this thing done, and scientists believe that it's going to do it. The police in Chicago have a mandate coming up in a few weeks that you have to have vaccinated. They say we're going to have 50% less police officers and doing whatever. If in fact we loosen that because they start shooting people in Bucktown and the Gold Coast, although those 50% will probably be kind of concentrated in those areas. But if we do start having a crime spree, they're not going to point back to the fact that Kyrie didn't play basketball and do whatever. So I don't think his stance and his movement is going to have an impact on a vaccine. I don't think we're going to go the wrong way because so that's the only thing I have with the effectiveness. What the sacrifice he's making, I think is tough because he's not going to have the impact he's looking for. That's my.
No, I think I think so. 2 parts. Ellis, I agree with you. It wasn't the league, but each one of those cities, right, is a part of the league. So any city, New York City or Toronto or any place that you can't play, it's like, there's sort of different, but it's the same thing, right? Because you can't play in those cities. So that's reality he's facing. When he said he was the voice of the voiceless, he wasn't talking about NBA players. The Big Flow Show. What he meant is that in America, in all industries, everyone is dealing with the same decision because employers are mandating that you have to prove that you've been vaccinated in order to retain your employment. So that's what he meant by saying he's the voice of the voiceless, is that a lot of people, whether it be a teacher or, any employment scenario that you are in, and your employer says you have to show me proof of vaccination or be deemed fireable. That's what he meant. He's the voice of the voiceless. And I don't think that those people are. I get it, man. I've got a very good friend that's going through that decision right now. And I'm like, bro, I get it, but I know I'm not anti-vax. In the spirit of full disclosure, I got vaccinated. All right, cool. So it maybe it's not my position. I can't really comment on this because I already got vaccinated. But I would like to think that if it came down to supporting and providing for my family versus that choice, I like to think that I'm gonna continue to provide with my family. Especially because there's so much research there that suggests that there are risks, but the risk compared to the risk of catching it and spreading it and potentially dying from it, it's not apples to oranges. It's apples to freaking Lamborghinis. They're different. One is a lot higher than the other. Is there a risk of enlarged heart? Yes. Is there a risk of what else do they say?
We don't know.
Sterile.
To your point, there are some risks. I think that one thing you said is like, just because you're not openly and committed to promoting the vaccine, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're anti, right? Like, I don't watch the Kardashians, but it doesn't mean I'm anti-Kardashian. Like, it's not like the idea that like, if you don't 100%
say right now,
if you don't 100% promote the vaccine or that everybody should get the vaccine, it's automatically saying you're anti-vax. Like that's the part that's kind of hard. And I don't know that he's actually trying to be a movement. It's just like, I don't want to get the vaccine. I'm rich. I have these freedoms. I don't want to get the vaccine. Like, I think we're overplaying it.
I think he's decided not to be a movement. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Even in his social media posts, it was more about don't believe what you hear. I'm not retiring. It was not, kumbaya. Let's ride together, y'all. We gonna keep the choice alive. It was more about don't believe that. I'm not retiring.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So I didn't give up $200 million. I might have gave up. What does he get? 20 a year?
I don't know. He gets a lot.
He gets a lot of money.
196 million over. My math is bad, but it all comes down to he rich.
A whole lot of money.
He's not giving up all that money. I'll be back. He's just gonna wait COVID out.
Right.
4 years. He gave up 50 million. You talked about my kids. And I'm like, I love my kids for 50 million.
But he's clearly somebody.
I can reverse my vasectomy and shit. 50 million. I got another kid. Oh shit! I'm just joking. I love y'all.
But he's clearly somebody that's not that's not that committed to his money.
You wouldn't do it, but you think about it.
Y'all better have your room clean.
Right.
Okay, y'all.
Which one of y'all wants to go first?
Right.
Whoever loves me more is going to stick around
Don't
at
be
least
so
till next
selfish.
year, till we get the second offer.
Thanks,
You're
Pernell.
super
You know, there's always that
good.
one person. I said 50 million, and we have a producer in the background. He gonna put 49 million.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Oh,
My bad, dog. My bad. For 49 million, everything I just said, take it back. 49.
Right.
Kyrie's at a
changes
point where he's at a point where the money, like he's outside of counting money realm, right? Like he's not somebody that seems to be that committed to worrying about how much money he has. Like he clearly has enough money to not worry about money ever. But then it's like, okay, well now this is just numbers on paper because I want for nothing.
But that reality, that fact, Ellis, kind of pisses me off with the people that are like, yeah, Kyrie. Like, no, dummy. He got enough money to make that decision. It's not going to affect him. We are not the same.
Yeah, walk off your job.
He's not the voice of the voiceless. He's the voice of the rich.
Right.
Like, he's different. And I like Kyrie, but before
you're right.
Crown him.
You're so right with that. He is
like, come on, man. You're like, it's the same thing that we saw in politics, right? The MAGA community, yeah, Trump, like, you so dumb. He can say that and get away with it.
Right.
You get caught saying that you would grab a woman by their private parts without their consent and see what happens. You're gonna get locked up.
You're so right, though.
That's the craziest.
Right, because we see it every day with back on the Trump thing. All these people thought that they could come out there and run their mouth, storm the Capitol on Trump, getting your ass prosecuted, getting your ass fired now. All these people that felt empowered by Trump, and all they say, we don't want to go too political, but all these people that felt that way, they all getting it.
Watch this. Jon Gruden.
Yeah.
That started with a lot of
fired.
It's just crazy. Bro. How much leeway he's also given, right? Like the Nets just decided, like they were considering, like, yeah, well, maybe we'll just let him play away games, like
because Kyrie
last season he played basically half the season for undisclosed reasons. Like they don't even know what he's gonna do next, so they have enabled this. Like the fact that the Nets, like, don't feel bad for the Nets, don't feel like they knew what they were getting into, they knew what they've been allowing, and the fact that like they're mid preseason having practices and they're like, can we make it through? Is he worth 41 games and not being able to play home games during
and some road games? There's other states you can't play.
Yeah. No, I think they made the exception for anybody that's any visiting team can play. So like if Kyrie was Bradley Beal's teammate who's also not vaccinated, we're not having this conversation. He's playing.
He might become his teammate.
Yeah, well, he just said he's not going to retire. So now some team
for what?
Right, but that was the only reason, because they were saying earlier in the offseason, if he got traded, he was basically trying to block a trade and said, if I get traded, I'm just going to retire. So the market for Kyrie was zero.
I was just play pimping.
It just I just don't know how, when you line these things up, he's talked about forever, like, basketball is just basketball. Life is deeper than that. Now he's taking personal days, several of them last year, because life is about more than just basketball. Now he's taking this stance with not being anti-vax, but pro-choice when it comes to the vaccination. My employer isn't going to dictate what I do with my body. Cool. If then you post something and say, but I'm not retiring, you ain't in love with basketball. You're in love with the financial windfall that is on the other end of basketball. And that's cool. But if that's the case, take your money and shut up, dog. And I like Kyrie, but it's getting a little annoying. It's like you're not in love with basketball, and I'm fine with that.
Well, no, don't say that.
Well, why?
If you are in love with the game, here's my thing. If you're in love with the game and you understand that there's some employment strings that are attached to the game, you either make those sacrifices or you don't. Now, with the personal days and mental health, I was like, okay, cool. Right, because mental health is real. It's not like an injury you can see on your arm. But now with this, man, I'm like, you're going too far. I'm sorry, you're going too far. What you're saying is you're in the news for all the wrong reasons, and you don't need to be. You don't need to be.
I would disagree with you on that. I mean, at the end of the day, he's in the news because they want to write the story. He making his stands. They want to write the stories. Now, does he play to the media? We can argue that all day. At the end of the day, he's making his decisions. He feels like he can still win. Now, the question I was going to ask y'all is, at this point, can he get the shot, or does he have to just go down with the ship? Because Wiggins ain't no big deal, so he went and got him a shot, right? Look, I'm gonna get a shot because look, I don't nobody care about Wiggins. He doesn't have no one even knows what his voice sounds like.
For $200 million. He can be called the hypocrite of the year. Yes, I would get the shot.
I think if he does get the shot, he got to shut up on every other subject forever, though, because he fold. You can't fold now. He's all in.
Yeah, he's gotta stick to it. But I don't. It's very possible. It's very possible that he folds. We'll see. I mean, look, Ben Simmons is in camp, and Kyrie's not. This is crazy.
But look at Ben Simmons. Like, you talk about somebody else that giving up a lot of money because of reasons I don't know.
Right. That wasn't a moral anything. That was his feelings were hurt.
Hurt his feelings. They talk bad about me. They talk bad about you. You wouldn't take a layup.
Right.
Yes, they talk bad about you.
Listen, if anybody would like to pay me $50 million and call me really bad things in the media, I'm here. Whatever you want to do.
You and me both.
Million.
You and me both.
I'm so for
and maybe one of your children.
I have no morals. I have no morals. And Pernell, even for $49 million, Pernell, even for drop that million.
Ben Simmons, though, to your point, gave up $1 million in salary because he did not report. Ben Simmons is represented by Clutch Sports, Rich Paul. And the question I have, because it's the Ball Hawk Sports Art where sports business and entertainment collide, are we seeing that Rich Paul and Clutch Sports aren't really up to the task? Are they in over their head? Because to give up $1 million to report 2 weeks later anyway, seems like you're literally flushing $1 million down the toilet.
And your dignity, because now you got to put your tail between your legs and show up to camp, and guys are looking at you funny.
This is the same Rich Paul that Nerlens Noel is suing because of the contract advice he gave, and he lost a lot of money. We talked about it on the show before. Are we seeing kinks in the armor? We celebrate the Rich Paul things from rags to riches, but the truth of the matter is they put you in position to succeed. And I used to say this as an NFL agent. If you're a number one pick, you've already negotiated your terms. A blind man could figure it out. Like the only thing I could do is mess it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anybody could have represented Trevor Lawrence and been his agent. Anybody.
Yeah.
He was the first pick. So is it that Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, are we seeing the kinks in the armor? Are they really just a bunch of guys that are in over their head being Clutch Sports, led by Rich Paul?
Well, it just seems very, I don't want to say egotistical, but like entitled and overly empowered. Like if these two stories are consistent and are true, the fact that the agent is the one pushing to say, don't sign that contract, hold out. Like in this situation with Ben Simmons, like what an agent would probably do is to say, look, there's no market for you right now. Nobody thinks you could hit the side of a barn. There's no market. And you go sit down. So the agent says, we're going to sit down with the organization. We're going to say, look, you're going to trade me. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to give you the best November of my entire career, and you're going to ship me, and we're going to get a lot of value for me and a lot of value for you, and we're going to move forward from this, and we'll never speak again after this. Not, I don't want to talk to my teammates. You can't come to my house. I'm not having any conversations. Everything's shut down. Like the job of an agent is to do what's in the best interest of their client.
The hat.
And in this sense,
Chich.
There's nothing that it's all bad. There's no positive outcome for this, because now he has to go back and sit with a team. Joel Embiid's been talking negatively about him even further because he didn't show up. Danny Green even said something. He's like, look, if he's not going to apologize, cool. So the dynamic is twisted. But if they had just sat down in August, September and said, look, I'm not playing this season, but I'm going to at least show people that I know how to shoot a jump shot, and you better get me out of here by November. And you can get as many prospects or, marquee players in return, because I'm going to ball out for the next month. But if I'm not here, if I'm not gone by the next month, this conversation's over, and I'm injured until you find a home for me. But they didn't do it.
I went to the hat because that perspective is indeed church. It is what it is, man. Business is grown man business. It's grown man business. It ain't basketball, although I'll take that bet. How big is the barn? You say you can't hit the side of a barn. How big is the barn?
Is there a shot mandate in that barn? Is there a shot mandate in the barn?
You gotta stop talking about that doggone.
If you won't even throw it at the barn, it doesn't matter how big it is.
Could you imagine if he came out this year and had a burner?
He's passing it to cows and sheep and other. He won't shoot it. He won't throw it at the barn, so he'll never hit the barn.
I think he had the Kardashian curse too, man. Ben Simmons gonna come back.
Did he get a piece?
But the question is, I think
Jenner.
He had one. But he had a Jenner. Sorry, same thing.
No, for real, I didn't know. I didn't keep up with them like that.
He had one of them. I will say this in terms of Rich Paul Clutch Sports. I love the come up story. I do. But we have to hold people to a business standard when we are talking business. Grown man business. Stop losing these people their money. Stop losing their money. Nerlens Noel said Paul advised him to turn down a 4-year, $70 million contract at Dallas Mavericks in 2017. That's saying you got to think
that's on you.
$1 million. He played for $1 million.
Try to convince me. One of y'all. I love y'all. Try to convince me to turn down 4 years, $70 million.
But if you costing people $58 million, either you're going to do two things. You either going to catch this fade or you're going to catch this criticism. Because from a business standpoint, I think there's some criticism that should be levied. And at the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, we just being honest, man. It is what it is. I didn't advise Ben Simmons to sit home and just flush down $1 million. Rich Paul and Clutch Sports did. So, all right, we got to quickly, the LaMelo watch, man. We're going to wind down quickly. We went a little long today, but it's all good stuff. It's hot sauce. It's fish grease up in here. It's the grits with butter and salt. We doing it big. It's the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. As we ask you every week, please like, please comment, please share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe in both the podcast world and on YouTube. Let's go home with a sprint, y'all. LaMelo watch. LaMelo Ball. Jello, the third of the three brothers. Well, he's actually the second of the three brothers, but in basketball hierarchy, he's the third by far of the three brothers. He's entering the G League draft, signed to the Hornets. G League. Is this nepotism or meritocracy? I've been watching him shoot on social media, and he got a cannon, man. He can shoot that rock. And he's a bigger guard. He can play all the way down to the three, I think. Defend all the way down to the three. I don't think he'd probably get abused at the 4. But is this nepotism or is Jello the hidden secret of the Ball family?
It's a G League deal. He showed up. I'm surprised that it took them this long to sign him. Obviously, there's some, familial influence there to keep Melo happy and see what they can get out of LiAngelo. But it's a G League deal. If they signed him to the NBA team, maybe I'd be a little bit questionable. But give him a shot. Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt at all. When I look at the Jon Gruden story, and think of Jay Gruden and know that their dad was a scout for the NFL at one point, that's how really he got to start. Absolutely. It might be nepotism, but I ain't mad at it. As
long as he's vaccinated, I don't care. As long as he's vaccinated.
You don't think he has that type of leverage to say, nah, it's free choice?
I mean, just try him out, man. Sometimes it goes like that, though. I mean, look, when your sons grow up and people recruit them, they're going to be like, oh, his dad played in the league? Okay. And that's going to give him a little credibility. Your two brothers in the league, people be like, man, maybe he just need one more year. He'll be straight. You know what I'm saying?
Prove him right, Jello. Prove your brother right. Puma also released the first signature shoe for my man LaMelo Ball. And LeVar, the dad, the curator of Triple B, released a lifestyle sneaker on the same day. I don't need to. Well, I'll ask. Which sneaker do you think would be best?
Take a glass and sit your ass down.
Man, that dad is not playing around.
They're so ugly. Did you see the shoes too? That's cool, man.
The retail is between $695 to $895.
I don't care what y'all say. He earned it. he got 3 of them are in the NBA.
Hey,
NBA program.
If you feel that way, buy a pair of shoes. That's all I want to say.
Yeah,
and I want
rock them. No, not just buy them. Rock them on the show.
Listen, the way my job, because I'm not vaccinated and I can't get my paycheck, I can't afford those shoes.
The fact that you call it a lifestyle shoe at that retail price, like whose lifestyle?
Yeah, like, not my lifestyle. I mean, look, hey, he did one of the shoes says, "I told you so." He's just flexing. I'm not mad. He's crazy. That's not my man. I don't know him personally, but look, he got his kids to the league. He's got 2.5 of them into the league. 2 of them are lottery picks.
I'll say 2 3/4 now. 2 3. He almost there.
Hey, yeah, he might get a 2-way deal by the time, by the midseason.
Go ahead, LeVar.
He's doing some right. He's doing some things right.
LeVar Ball for president. Zaire Wade signed with the Jazz G League team. That is D Wade's son. Is this nepotism? Because I've seen his son play. He was at Sierra Canyon with Bronny, and he ended up transferring to a prep school because it just didn't work out well. I'm hoping it works out, man, because I'm a D Wade fan, but sometimes maybe you just don't have it. I hope he ends up being a great scout
with his play. How does he look? Does he look like a G League player?
He looks he's athletic. He's not that tall. He's athletic. He got bounce, but nothing just jumps out at you when it comes to his game. D Wade had that sleepy game. I saw him playing college at Marquette, but you could tell right away he was tougher than everybody. He was gritty. He would go to the floor. He was canny. He would get the steals, and then he would dunk on your head. Yeah. That's not his son. So we'll see if it all plays out, man. All right.
I mean, just the fact that we're in a position where a former player is now an owner of a team and can put his kid on the team. Like, you don't hear about this in the 80s. This not happening in the 90s. So it may be nepotism, but the fact that it's even a story.
Right. Zaire Wade is 6'2". So there's a lot of 6'2" guards in America. So he's just in a really big bunch. All right, last story today, man, and we're gonna skip producer's cut today just because we've been long today, but it's been good. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar claims he couldn't even compete in the elite NBA of today, basically saying he would be sitting on the bench because of the evolution of the long distance shot. People have called Kareem the GOAT. When the GOAT conversations happen in basketball, Kareem is in there. To all basketball purists, he's in the conversation. How high he ranks, who knows? But to hear him say he couldn't compete because of the evolution of the long distance shot, is this just a old man moment? Is he crazy? I mean,
I agree.
Kareem,
look, I've been saying this for a long time. Everybody, we do these. It's hard to compare eras, but at the end of the day, when you start looking at the era of basketball, if you can't shoot a jumper, at least the occasional jumper as a big man, you're not as valuable. So to say he can't compete and get on, there's some big dudes out there that can't shoot. He definitely could play, but his value would be much diminished. I don't know if he can go out there and cover, perimeter defense. I don't know if he can move like that. I mean, those guys just don't exist anymore. I mean, if you're on the team, everybody who's a center is shooting the open three. Everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate.
Is he on point with something here? I don't know, man. It's Kareem.
Yeah, I appreciate.
Kareem's one of the few people that you can just call by his first name and you know
for the 3-point line.
All I'm saying is this, man. Kareem is one of the few people that goes by one name. In sports, that's hard. When we say Kareem, there's no question who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's at least Mount Rushmore of centers. To say he couldn't even compete.
I mean, all-time leading scorer. Period. So I appreciate the humility. I see what he's saying. Like, this is quite the contrary opinion of any other retired athlete, especially that's been in that conversation, to say, they'll say, oh, they couldn't beat it. I would be amazing in this era. Or
I lost Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen
brought these stars back to our era, they get beat up. So I appreciate the deviation and the humility, but I absolutely think he'd be a beast. Like, the skyhook is arguably the only absolutely indefensible shot in NBA history, and he was the master of it, and it still counts for 2 points today, and he was unstoppable. So he might not be as unstoppable or as dominant, but I don't think he's looking for 6th man of the year. Like he'd probably still be all NBA. But I appreciate that he recognizes that the game has evolved and it's become faster. There's a lot more athleticism. Like today, you could have 4 All-Star teams and everybody would be legit. Back then, when you saw the end of the bench of those All-Star teams, those guys I think they were smoking cigarettes at the end of the bench.
Yeah, they were bad. They were bad. All right, y'all. We got to get out of here for the day. We did not get to MLB, but look, it's a really hot and heavy postseason. Make sure that you follow. Of course, we got ETP with his Boston Red Sox hat on. But you can find MLB news. The one story that we cannot let go before we get out of here is the WNBA Finals. The Mercury and Sky are tied at 1-1. Game 2 went to overtime. Brittany Griner dunked in a game. Yes, she did in a playoff game, in a playoff finals. Both teams had to play their way in with that 1-game elimination. So it's really cool to see a single game elimination final. Basically, both teams had to take that route. WNBA travel policies and resources require players to travel economy plus. Again, standards, man, different standards, right? But that's why we want to make sure that
fly economy plus, and I'm a big deal.
You a big deal on this show. You are a big deal on this show. Yeah. But you compare WNBA to NBA, they're traveling very differently. So that's why we here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk, we make sure that we share the news of the WNBA because we love the product on the field. Game 3 in Chicago sold out, over 10,000 seats. WNBA, look, they were around 25 years. They had their credibility way before us, but we like to think at the Ball Hog Sports Talk that we have helped the WNBA regain its absolute respect. Put some respect on their name. Good luck to both teams as they enter Game 3. And for that, this is it. It's been a great show. It's been the Ball Hog Sports Talk. This particular episode, broken system of value. We talked about the broken system. We talked about Jon Gruden and Kyrie. We talked about WNBA. We talked about a lot. If you could, please like, please comment, please share, tag your friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know. Please subscribe in the YouTube space and in the podcast world. And with that, we is out.